in the various locations across the country. Today we're looking at Kilkenny, and we had just a very heartfelt, honest appraisal of the situation from Nellie Campion. I'm delighted now to be joined by Tom Slevin, who is a retired veterinary surgeon. Tom, great to talk to you.
Thank you.
Tom, I know that you have very, how would I say, sincere, direct opinions on the whole episodes of what happened in Kilkenny.
Well, really, I think what happened to Dan Brennan and his family is terrible and shouldn't happen to anyone in this country. He was unfortunate that his farm was hit by pollution, serious pollution, coming from the factory about less than a mile away. And every time the factory, the pollution hit his animals, they stopped thriving, they might even lose weight, and then later on, when the factory would close for periods, for holidays or whatever, the cattle did well again.
So that shows there had to be a direct link.
Well, in the feeding trials that were done, the first feeding trial was done in 2005, and they brought cattle down from, the department brought cattle down from Dublin and fed them, and they did all right for the first 40 days. The next 30 days they dropped to half the average daily gain. But on the third part of the trial, they lost half a kilo a day. Now during that time they eat well, and that trial was all run by Chagas and done properly by Chagas.
Yes.
They did another trial in 2007 by the veterinary college, and when the factory was closed, they gained 0.87. And when the factory was open, that dropped to 0.21 for the 10 months. Massive. And every animal, when the pollution hit, every animal dropped, and the milk dropped. It wasn't like some animals got sick or maybe the department know exactly what was wrong, and they proved that in their reports. But then they went about dismantling the report and contradicting their own findings.
One question of why do you think they did?
Because CRH is more important than that man sitting over there.
Yes.
That's why. And every other farmer in the country isn't important if there's a multinational involved.
And this is actually just taking up that point from what Dan said previously, and Nellie had just said as well. It seems to me, as a layman, jobs at all costs, revenue at all costs, to hell with farming, to hell with public health, and let's get the jobs in there. And then they go on and do big announcements on RTE and all of the others across the country. Oh, look at us, we're creating 400 jobs, 200 jobs.
Yeah, well, it would be unfair to blame every multinational with pollution.
No, I know that, but we're looking at certain individuals.
A lot of 600,000 would have cleared the pollution, put in a scrubber.
Yes.
Would have made it. Now, this cadmium, all the heavy metals, cause cancer.
Yes.
And they cause a lot of other things as well. A hell of a lot of other things. And the fact that they were allowed to disperse around the town I live in is a national disgrace. Now, there was sulphur and a lot of things came out of that factory chimney that weren't tested for. We don't know about it. But we certainly identified the cadmium. And the average, there was a survey done by the European Food Safety Authority in 18 countries, and less than 1% of the cattle in the kidneys had 1 milligram per kilogram of cadmium. Over 187,000
right.
blood tests or kidney tests. In Dan's, it was the average was over 2, but some of them had 4.8. Way up 4 times, 5 times. Yeah. And yet, I mean, to cover that up, how the hell to cover that up, or why to cover it up, is a good question.
Could there have been national government intervention to quell it, knowing that there could have been a major exposure of malpractice, compensation, litigation, or whatever, and a very, very negative impression worldwide on our production of milk and meat? Could that be the case?
Yeah, that definitely was the case. And one minister said to another TD, I keep my head down and let it pass over. It'll pass. Do you want to name that minister?
I don't know. Was he alive or dead?
He's alive. Smith, that's above in cabin, a little fella. He hadn't to keep his head too low either.
Right. And he actually said,
He said that, yeah.
So it's on public record?
It's not on public record. He said it to Mary White.
Yes.
She worked with us. I keep my head down a little past. The ministers, the government knew well. We met Mary Cochran.
Yes.
Mary would have been very good to us, only she was shifted, or
Yes.
she shifted.
Yes.
Because she was someone that took an interest in it. But yeah, then the interagency group, which are a group of lackeys all employed by the department, and they came up with the idea that cadmium wasn't important,
All right.
and everyone else.
I don't know.
It's unbelievable. Like,
This is actually mind-boggling.
Now we have all that. I have all that in the reports.
Yes.
I'm only quoting from the reports, apart from what the minister said. I have no documentation on that, but I have all the other things in the reports. They did their own research. They proved that it was heavy metal intoxication, and then when that didn't suit, and we were told that in 2008. They came to us and they said, Dan was there as well. They said, look, we found the problem. The cadmium is the problem. It's a very toxic chemical. But when the report came out in 2010, now it took 2 years.
Yes, okay, 010.
2010, things had changed.
Right.
And we got a meeting eventually in 2012 with the authors of the report, and the only thing that come up with was mineral deficiency. After spending almost 2 million, 7 years work, and no other farm in Ireland with that problem. Now, a lot of farms in Ireland have mineral deficiencies, but Dan Brennan, they said, was the only one with mineral deficiency.
But, you know,
It's difficult to believe that. But
I find it incredibly, I don't know, could I say criminal behaviour
You could.
by these people?
You
Because, like, the escaping protocol, that now I think is becoming a national joke.
well,
Because-
really, the Department of Agriculture are a national joke.
Oh, well, yes.
Because,
There's
I mean-
something inherently wrong here.
They didn't think BSE existed for 2 years after
Right.
it came in. You know, something really wrong. But once you join the department, you sign a thing that you will not embarrass the department.
Oh, for the love of God.
Do you know what I mean? And no one will break. No one. We found it very hard to get people to work for us, even when they retired from the department. We had a man come down and looked at the trees, and he said definitely pollution, and he disappeared. He wouldn't come back.
He was probably beamed up to some other planet, maybe. You know, that could be it. Because Dan showed me the photographs of the trees.
Yeah.
It's evident. You know,
Yeah.
it was summertime.
Yeah.
And the trees were solid bare, and the branches dying.
And there was a holly bush, a fine big holly bush,
Yes.
and the side next to the factory was all burned. It actually died, and the other side was lovely and green. There wasn't shelter. And the department answer was, it may have been short of water. The wettest year we had.
But you know what the theory, I think, would be? Maybe the leprechauns were having a night party at that section, and maybe bonfires were lit. And that's probably what burned. Maybe that's unofficial, but it might be the report up at the department the way they're going.
I know the department know well.
Of course they do.
know
That's
well.
what I mean.
I mean, they're not.
They
stupid.
know well.
They're not. They know well, and the EPA know well.
But you see, this is the point. You have the county councils, you have the EPA, you have the appointed escaping protocol. I mean, are they drinking lattes and espressos 7 days a week that they can't actually see what's in front of them?
Or they can.
But
They know
why-
exactly.
But why? What's the problem? What's the core
The whole
problem?
thing, cover up. Most departments will cover up whatever they're able to cover up.
Yes.
You know, let it be right. They don't give two hoots about Dan Brennan or Nellie Campbell or me.
Yeah.
You know, it's all covered up for the old school tiger. You know, I mean, the lady from the EPA that we had a meeting in 06, in Kilkenny. We had a lot. The department were there, the county council,
Yes.
the EPA, all the hobnobs, and Mary Coughlin let two vets into it. I was one of them.
Yes.
And the lady from the EPA was there, and she admitted that the factory were over their limit any time they were examined.
Right.
And I asked her what did she do about it, and she said they couldn't do it. And I said, why? Well, I said you could have prosecuted them or closed the damn thing. And she said, no. She said we weren't sure that our probes were in the proper place. That's a factor.
Oh God, you know what? That actually is similar to a story that Pat and Mulligan told me there as well. It's very funny. It's actually amazing. It's a very funny story, but if it wasn't so serious, it would be an actual joke. But air pollution monitors were installed, and I think it was found out that they hadn't been working for nearly 6 months.
That is quite possible. Yeah.
That's great.
That's been normal.
That's like buying a big motor car without a battery.
Or without an engine.
Or without an engine.
Yeah.
It's laughable.
But you see, they don't now. Fair play to the 3 people that did the last try. Now the 2 lads in the lab in Kilkenny, they
Yes.
were convinced that it was infection. Everything was infection, and
Okay.
everything had an answer if you had antibiotics.
Right.
And we foolishly treated all Dan's calves 1 year with antibiotics.
Yes.
And they wanted me to do it again. They said, no way, no way.
Right.
We're dealing with something else. Because the lungs got damaged by air pollution of the heavy metals.
Yes.
Now the other 3 came in and they did work very well. Simon Moore, Mary Canty and Liz Lane. They worked
Yes.
very well. They proved it and they told us they had it sorted and they did great work. The report was about a couple of 100 pages.
Yes.
And then they dismantled the whole thing. And Professor Moore went down to Bagnallstown to the lab 2.5 years later, and he found some of the blood in a shed at the back of the lab.
In a shed.
In a shed after 2.5 years. And he tested that, and he found that there no cadmium. Now what you'd find in blood after 2.5 years in a shed, I wouldn't like to be tested.
I tell you, there's a lot of suspicious arguments coming into my head here. You know,
Yeah.
blood samples taken and found then 2.5 years later
And they were in the shed. That's
in the
important.
shed.
Yeah.
They weren't actually in the lab
No.
environment.
They weren't in the lab environment. Now, I spoke to the manager of the lab and they
Yes.
said they polluted or someone polluted it. And he said they don't, well, he used a few explicits, but
Fair enough,
they
yes.
did not pollute it.
Right.
Now, I said I'll talk to you again in the new year, sometime in
Yes,
December.
yes.
I rang him again in the new year, and he couldn't talk because the lab had been sold. No one knows who bought it.
Lovely.
But he was told if you keep your job, you don't talk.
Dictatorship.
Dictators.
Censorship.
Yeah.
Dictatorship.
See,
God,
CRH
this is a great country.
CRH are very, very big. And they I have no doubt they threaten the government. They said, we'll do this or we'll do that or we'll do that. But who is it then?
But like, where's the Taoiseach and the Taoiseach? They're supposed to be leaders in the country.
They're
Where are they?
They're leaders in other things, but not in that. No, I mean, 1 farmer or 2 farmers or 10 farmers aren't important. Genuine, eh?
But like if people, Tom, are getting serious levels of cancer up to stage 4, down in West Limerick, North Clare, North Kerry, the rare cancer, I can't think of the actual biological name of it, doctors are seeing a total rise of diagnosis of it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's coming from centres of pollution that are there. So, if the CRH get the go ahead, God forbid, but please God they won't.
They will, yeah.
But if they get it, and say like before the track record that they breached emissions control.
Yes.
Say they do that when they're bringing up the mud from the Red Pond and the Shalumina. What happens then?
If they get it, they'll be well monitored for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
And everything will be hunky-dory.
Right.
And then, when they're going to monitor the chimney, they'll let them know that they're coming about
Right.
a week or 2 in advance. And they will cut down and they will be monitored again and everything will be hunky-dory.
Do you know what that reminds me of a story in Glynn? We had the Christian Brother Industrial School. It's very similar because the inspectors on the Department of Education would ring ahead. The Christian Brothers were coming down to inspect. Everyone would be dolled up. Everyone would be smiling and playing out in the front. A total sham. That's exactly what has happened.
Oh yeah, that's what's happening. Now CRH brought in their own experts from England.
All right.
And expert in inverted commas.
Yeah.
But they found everything was good. But they never tested for cadmium. I don't know what they tested for.
Now, just before I go, just explain what this is a toxic cadmium. Isn't it?
Cadmium.
Yeah, cadmium.
It's one of the heavy metals and it's in the shale. that they take in to make the brick. And when they burn it,
Yes.
it's a solid. When they burn it, it becomes liquid. And when they burn it further, it becomes gas,
Right. And it's going into the
going into the atmosphere. Now, there's a lot involved in it that it hit certain part of Dan's farm. But
Yes.
it's the seventh most toxic mineral. It's the seventh most toxic poison known.
Yes.
Now, they inhale that, it damages the lungs, right? And a lot of the calves got pneumonia. But what it,
Yes.
the endocrine system is a system of glands that regulate the whole body.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You have
Yes,
the thyroid
yes.
gland, the thyroid, everyone else.
Yep.
And we found calves at 6 months of age with osteoporosis, osteomalacia, and you could cut the spinal column with a knife, the bone. There's no bone, there's just cartilage. There's no mineralization. We found, or they found in the lab, they found that the heart was gone mineralized. That means that bone was laid down.
Yes.
The lungs and the arteries had
Yes.
bone laid down.
Yes.
And the growth hormones were halved. And they said mineral deficiency.
But it was, in fact, a cadmium that
Oh
was
yeah,
causing.
that's what it does. If you find animals that are, they look, you say, look, oh gee, that animal is very short of iron, you know.
Yes.
We give them an iron injection or a copper injection. Whatever.
Yes. Yes.
They get plenty, but they're not able to use it because the cadmium won't let the cell use it. It will go into the cell instead
Yes.
of the iron, no matter much of it, or instead of the copper. So that the animal is actually dying from copper deficiency, and there's loads in the body when the cells can't use it. Do you understand where I'm coming from?
I do, exactly. You've explained it in layman's language, and the viewers at
Yeah.
home and abroad will pick that up very, very quickly. You're a great man. I have a bit of bad news for you, Tom.
Well, it could rush.
Tom, the bad news is...
I didn't win the lottery.
No, your retirement is cancelled.
It's not, I have to play my golf.
Aren't you lucky? Aren't you lucky? Tom, it's been great talking to you. And I have to thank two people that are wonderful friends of mine, Pat and Nuala Gehagan, and Dan is now, and Nellie and yourself as well. And the whole idea is to get the information out there of what is happening under people's noses in rural Ireland that the government and their bodies are allowing to happen. We're not against jobs, we're not against companies, gaining profits, and that's nothing to do with it. We're talking about the safeguarding of public health. The farmers, their wife, their children, the generations of children to come. And that's what this is all about, really. Transparency, dialogue, and constructive criticism. And let's all get together that these things can be hammered out in a proper, safe environment. So, Tom, I wish you well.
Thank you. There's one thing you need. If you need all that, and
Yes.
you need all that, the first thing is to get rid of CRH.
Yes.
Out of this country.
Well, that's going to take time. We need a complete clean sheet to start again where people and their lives are respected by government bodies. That's the most important thing. So I want to say a very special thank you again to Michael Slattery of MJ Finnegan's out here in the Dublin Road for wonderful hospitality here and a lovely surrounding. And thank you to all our guests here on the What Matters programme. All we can do, people, is to give you the information. You make up your mind, get in touch with your county councillors, your local representatives, your TDs, whoever, and get the ball moving. Because if we don't do this in the next decade, all is gone, even with climate change as well. So from myself, John Prendergast, with great people here, Gurlamita Market, August Slaughter. Thanks, Tom. You're a gentleman.
I hope I didn't make a cut of myself.
You didn't. You're a gentleman.